38 Laws of Power. I'm Tom Stewart from the Swift Kickin' Ass podcast, joined with my lifelong friend, John Curren.
How you doing, Tom?
Great, great. How are you loving this book?
I am. I'm a little scared of it, to be quite honest with you. I'm not sure if you may have created a monster by turning me on to this book, because some of it seems so very dangerous. Um, I know we're going to get a lot of comments on what we're talking about, and especially when we compare it to our work environments in the corporate world. A lot of people are going to say, "You don't do that," or "You shouldn't do this," or anything. There's a lot that people can say about it, and I think a lot of people will have opinions on power, but power is a part of the corporate environment. It is a part of our world. I think no matter where you work, and whether or not people want to admit that power is important, it is important. We need power over our own lives.
And you need to
And
learn to defend yourself against people that will be using these techniques on you, whether they've read the book or not. This book's been around for a while, John. I actually picked it up back, I think, in like '99. And I remember bringing it to my old workplace, Clear Channel, which I'm not afraid to mention that, because I gave it to my boss as a present. And he said, "You know what? This should have been the employee manual. They should hand this out when you start to work here, just to learn how to keep the knives out of your back."
yeah, it's I think with great power comes great responsibility. I'm sure your spidey senses are tingling over that one.
Yes.
But as we talk about living life on your own terms, power is really central to living life on your own terms. You need power to control your own circumstances. And that's what I think it makes me very interested in this book. Law number one is never outshine the master. And I was thinking, what do you mean master? And if you look up the definition, a master could be your employer. It could be someone who is very skilled at something, like a teacher or the great masters of the artists back in centuries past. But it's really someone. A master is someone who has power to control or use you in some way.
Yeah, so
And
I'm gonna read the actual official law as it's written in the book. All right, and you tell me your interpretations of it.
okay.
So it's never outshine the master, right? Law number one. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. In your desire to please and to impress them, do not go too far in displaying your talents, or you might accomplish the opposite and inspire fear and insecurity. Make your masters appear more brilliant than you are, and you'll attain the heights of power. That's the law.
Yeah, and what I take away from that is in today's world, we're always told to be ourselves, and that it really doesn't matter what other people think of you. It's more important to be yourself. And I myself have followed that philosophy throughout my career. And what I have seen is exactly what that definition mentions. People have been scared of me for some reason. I honestly don't know why. I've been accused of having agendas, in which I had no agenda other than just learning. And I think the truth is that it can hurt your career to be yourself when you have a superior who is intimidated by you. And let's just face it, if you're in the corporate world, you want a lot of the people in the corporate world want to move up the ladder. So therefore, if they feel that you're outshining them, they can do things within their power, within the organizational structure, to stop you, or at least slow you down from getting ahead.
I have to
So
say, I have experienced this quite a bit. In my career field, it seems I've had just a plethora of different bosses come and go at all my locations that I've worked at. It's just it comes along with radio. Radio is a very unforgiving medium as far as the people that work in it, and just media in general, I think. But every time I get a new boss, you can't act like you're the hot shit of the place, because you got to let them kind of get the feel for the place, kind of you want to help them and support them. But if you're a threat to them, or they think that you know if they think that I want their job, which I don't. But sometimes I've had that situation where you could feel like a threat to their placement. Like they might be like, well, this guy knows this facility inside and out, and I'm the new guy, and I really don't know. And maybe they should have hired him. And that's something you don't want to you don't want to create that kind of atmosphere. So the new guy comes in and feels like you're a threat.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. In the organizations that I've been in, leadership has almost been like a flavor of the month. So you don't really get too close to the leadership, because the higher you go, the higher the turnover is. And maybe that plays into this first law, never outshine the master. Some leaders find that they can only go so far in an organization, and then they're roadblocked for one reason or another, and it's time to move on. So I think that they're evoking this law. This is really it's just the way of the world. I think corporate America is not necessarily concerned about you as a person and your personal growth. Corporate America is there because it's concerned about the bottom line, and you are there for the value that you add to that organization. It has nothing to do with you personally. It has to do with your business and what you add to that business. So I think this law really is very true. Um, I've had superiors which I did not feel were my superior, uh, and that never worked out well for me. You cannot show up your boss. Now, I have had exceptions to that rule. I remember one of my managers, when I first started working in the hospital environment, my manager told me, "I love it when you shine, because you make me look good." And I think therein lies the key. If you are going to shine, you need to pull your boss into the limelight to kind of share in that glow. Otherwise, you're gonna be walking down a path where your boss does not feel included. Maybe you're throwing a shadow on the boss, and they can feel very intimidated.
Well, that was the example out of the book, right? They were one of the examples I was speaking about Galileo, right? And and was it when he discovered the Pluto, I think, or one of the
I think it was
planets?
Jupiter.
Was it Jupiter? And he named it in the honor of the
The
ruling class,
Medicis.
right? And so instead of like taking away from them and saying, "Look how great I've discovered this other planet," he attributed it to them and made it look like as part of their grandeur. Like look at this. He included them and that didn't separate them and try to take the light for himself.
Yeah, and just to go a little bit deeper into that, because I think it tells a good story, is that in that day, artists needed people who were I was going to say well endowed. They needed rich people to support them. That was their means of living and the means of pursuing their art or their science. And in this case, I mean, I guess other artists would give people who made contributions to their art or their science some, like a compass or a manuscript or something related to the work that they were doing. And where Galileo set things up very well for himself is by naming Medici. I know I'm butchering the name, but by giving them credit and showing them that, hey, your ascension into the higher class is written in the stars. He gave himself basically a permanent position and a paycheck that would last him the rest of his life. rather than having to jump from one contributor to the next. Um, it, people during that time, and I think people today with money or power are very conscious of their place, and if you outshine them and make them look bad, that could be disaster for you. In fact,
Absolutely. One of the things about this book that I really like is there's the little in the columns on the side. There's usually a little anecdote or a quote, or sometimes there's poems that kind of support the law, and it's all stuff from history. And one of them that they had was the stars in the sky. There can only be one sun at a time. Never obscure the sunlight or rival the sun's brilliance. Rather fade into the sky and find ways to heighten the master star intensity.
yeah,
So basically, it's just like the sun is a star, but there can only be one for this planet at a time. And even though all the stars are suns, they actually enhance the whole universe. When you see it from planet Earth.
yeah. Prior to reading this book, I remember thinking that there are absolute truths in this world, such as if you buy something at a low price and you sell it at a high price, you will always make a profit. I mean, that is just an absolute truth. And a lot of cliches are indeed cliches. They've been around for a while because there's truth in them. And I think I agree with you. Those quotes, they've been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Why is that? It's because they're true.
Right. And he
And
does. Robert Greene does a great job of bringing forth little snippets from all different cultures and all through all different times to support his laws. I really like it. It's cool. It's almost like when you read the Bible and they have the red letter Jesus. Whenever Jesus spoke, they highlighted it in red. The columns of these, it's almost like he modeled it after a Bible. It's more like a Bible of evil, by the way. like I think Darth Sidious handed this to Darth Vader when they were in Star Wars and said, "Learn this, buddy. You're going to need it."
well, I think that's funny. I really think that this kind of at the core of this law is that, and it's cliched, but you have to be strong enough to be weak. Just because you uh, come across, or other people perceive you as weak or may perceive you as weak, doesn't mean that you are weak. It's showing people, you don't show people all your cards. You have to hold back, and you do that to protect yourself. Um,
It's funny because I was talking about Star Wars, but what a better film to illustrate this principle and a lot of principles in this book is when Darth Sidious was Emperor, was he Senator Palpatine, and he really kind of hid in the shadows and feigned that he was this nice, kindly old man. All the while, he was running or orchestrating the entire war behind the scenes, and no one really knew that he was a Sith Lord and had this great power.
hmm Yeah, and it's a great way to protect yourself because you're not in the limelight,
Yeah,
so to speak.
I've known some program directors like that in radio stations.
Yeah, it's reading this chapter makes me think of a story that my dad told me about my grandfather. And my grandfather was state's attorney of Illinois back in the 70s, and he did a lot of campaigning. And so he met a lot of people during that time. And this one night he was out, and he was in a bar actually with some of his friends, and this guy comes up to him and starts picking a fight. And this guy was a lot bigger than my grandfather. So my grandfather said, "Hey, buddy, let's take this outside." So they go outside, and when they got alone outside, my grandfather pretended to cower, and he says, "Listen, buddy, I'm sorry. I didn't want to seem like a coward in front of my friends, but I really don't want to fight you. And the guy let his guard down and started to laugh. And when he laughed, my grandfather let him have it and beat the hell out of him. And
Way to go, Gramps.
yeah, it's about catching people off guard and putting positioning yourself so so that not only you can protect yourself, but so you can also beat somebody's ass if you need to. You catch them off guard. I think it's a great law to master.
I agree. And one other note, and I'll probably get killed for this, is it's also like when you say to your wife, "Honey, you're right." I'm not trying to be chauvinist. I'm just saying that sometimes you just have to go, "Okay, you're right. I'm sorry."
You pick your battles.
Right.
And even if you know you're right, your wife is always right. In fact, I told my wife tonight, she thanked me for picking something up from the store. I think it was salsa or something, and it was on sale, so of course I'm going to pick it up. And she thanked me profusely for it, and I was like, "Yep, happy wife, happy life."
That's funny because Jennifer was telling me that we needed to do a podcast on sensitivity training.
So you're not sensitive enough, is what she's telling you. Anyhow,
I think that about wraps up this, right?
yeah, I think so. We're going to be covering all 48 laws, and feel free, I think, to jump from one law to another if the subject matter captures your attention. There's no particular order, I think, other than numeric.
And you'll be able to find all the laws at a swiftkickinass.com along with our weekly podcast.